So we've made a fifth on each note of the major scale. Now I want to do something that we haven't done before. I want to count up the number of half steps that we find between each fifth, or between the notes of each fifth. So let's start again on the left, and we're going to start, we know that this is a fifth, the interval of a fifth between C and G. Now let's count the number of half steps between the C and the G. And in order to do that, we almost certainly want to go over to the keyboard here. And I'm going to put a C on our starting note and a G on our ending note, G, just to remind us, just to mark out the territory there. So we're going to count out the number of half steps that we find from C to G. So we start on C, and our first half step brings us to C sharp. So that's 1. Our next half step brings us from C sharp to D. So that's 2. Our next half step brings us from D to D sharp. That's 3. Our next half step brings us from D sharp to E. That's 4. Our next half step brings us from E to F. Remember, this is the place in the keyboard where we have a half step, or one of the places in the keyboard where we have a half step between two white notes. So from E to F brings us to 5 half steps. From F to F sharp, that's half step number 6. And then finally from F sharp to G, that's 7. So we have 7 half steps between C and G. And usually the way I like to write this out is I like to put a 0 under C, and I like to put a 7 under our last note, G. Why do I do this? Well, it reminds me of something that I sort of passed over just a moment ago, which is this. Notice when I was counting the half steps, I did not start counting 1 on C. I didn't put a 1 right here on my starting note. I started counting 1 on our second full half step, or after we had made the journey of a half step, I counted 1. So I did not count 1 on C. I counted 1 on C sharp. Another way of thinking of that is I didn't count 1 on C. I counted 0 on C. And remember, that's a totally different way, or that's a completely different way of counting than we counted when we were counting the diatonic interval, because I started counting on C. I started counting 1 on C when I was counting the diatonic interval. But now when I'm counting the number of half steps, I'm starting on 0. So writing 0-7, that just reminds me that I'm actually starting counting on 0. Okay, let's go to our next group of half steps. So here we go. We have D to A, and we know that that is also a fifth. Let's see how many half steps. And maybe we're assuming that it's just going to have the same number of half steps, and that's an interesting assumption to make. Let's see if that's true. So let's count D. I'm going to mark out my D here, my starting note, and my A here, my ending note. So D to D sharp is 1. D sharp to E is 2. E to F, again, that white note half step, is 3. F to F sharp is 4. F sharp to G is 5. G to A is 6, and G to A, G sharp is 6, and G sharp to A is 7. So again, we have 7 half steps. 0 to 7. D to A has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half steps. Let's try E to B. Now that we sort of know this technique, I'm just going to go a little bit faster here. So E, here's marking out my starting note, to B. So here's E, to F is 1. F to F sharp is 2. F sharp to G is 3. G to G sharp is 4. G sharp to A is 5. A to A sharp is 6. And A sharp to B is 7. Look at this. Again, 0 to 7. And let me actually explicitly in the next one count 0 on our starting note, just so that we remember that. Okay, so starting on F, here's F. Starting note, here is C, our ending note, that fifth from F to C right here. So on F, I'm going to start counting 0. F is 0. F sharp is 1. G is 2. G sharp is 3. A is 4. A sharp is 5. B is 6. And C is 7. So again, we have another interval of 0 to 7. I think you're getting the hang of this by now. So let's mark out our next interval, which is G to D. And so far this makes sense, right? All the intervals of the fifth have exactly the same number of half steps. That intuitively seems like it should be the case. So, G to D, here we go. G is 0, G sharp is 1, A is 2, A sharp is 3, B is 4, C is 5, C sharp is 6, and D is 7. Okay, so 0 to 7. We are really rolling now. Let's keep going. Now that we've got some momentum, let's go A to E. Here we go. So, A is 0. A sharp is 1. B is 2. C is 3. C sharp is 5. 4. D is 5. D sharp is 6. And E is 7. 0 to 7. And I bet we can make a prediction about what B to F is going to be. We can almost write 0 to 7 down already. So here's our starting note B. Let me mark that out. B to F. Okay. That's an interesting sounding fifth. Let's count this out. B is 0. C is 1. C sharp is 2. D is 3. D sharp is 4. E is 5. F is 6. And we're done. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Did we count that right? B0, C1, C sharp 2, D3, D sharp 4, E5, F6. Could this be correct? Could this 1/5 only have 6 half steps, while the rest of the fifths have only 7? Click on the next video, and we'll find out.